call the meeting to order. If you would stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everyone, and welcome everyone who will be watching at home. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVore?
Present.
Trustee Gatt?
Present.
Trustee Kazam?
Present.
Trustee Marfa?
Present.
Trustee Wigginton?
Present.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Present.
All right, good to see everyone. We do have a quorum. Next on the order of business is approval of the meeting minutes from May 25th, 2021. I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion.
Did I hear a second? Okay, motion and a second. Are there any questions or corrections to the minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. We would be at comments from the audience. If anyone would like to address the board, please come forward to the podium, give your name and address, and try and keep your remarks under 5 minutes. Anyone here to address the board? Going once, going twice. Comments from the audience are closed. Any old business to come before the board? Hearing none, we'll get right into new business. All of this is under Administration and Finance. There are 4 items for Trustee DeVore. The first is, actually, they're all action items. The first is Ordinance 2021-1652, an ordinance creating an additional Class A1 liquor license within the Village of Peoria Heights. Trustee DeVore, I'd ask for a motion to approve this.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-1652.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay, back to you, Trustee DeVore.
So this is just increasing the number of liquor licenses we have to 11. We currently have 10. So Water's Edge is looking to not only serve wine, but also to have a full bar. So in order for us to provide him a license with that, we have to increase the number of licenses we have.
Discussion?
That's the place above Brienzo's, right?
Correct.
When are they going to open it, do you know?
I don't know. I don't know if you know. Do they have an estimated opening date?
I know they're striving for as soon as possible. There was a delay because of health issues on the part of one person involved in that project, and then coronavirus. Mike Vandy was to be here tonight. He was unable to attend. The original business plan for the winery simply called for wine produced on site, but now their business model has changed, and he had asked us to grant him this liquor license before us tonight. So that's where it stands as of now. I mean, the construction's been completed for a long time, and I believe everything is finished on the inside, just a matter of opening, finding help probably, and getting open. Anyone else? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Trustee Gatt?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Marfa?
Aye.
Trustee Wigginton?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
That passes. Okay. The next action item is Ordinance 2021-1653, an ordinance amending Title IV, Chapter 2 of the Village Code of the Village of Peoria Heights for the purpose of increasing the permitted number of licensed video gaming establishments. Trustee DeVore, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-1653.
Second.
In a second? Okay, go right ahead.
So this is very similar. Poor Brothers used to have video gaming. They did away with it. Now they want to bring in a new video gaming contract. So now we just have to also allow them to have that. They had it before, we had no issues. This would just be reinstating it, and since it's a new company, we have to go through this process again.
And that sums it up. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Trustee Gatt?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Marfa?
Aye.
Trustee Wigginton?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Okay, next is an action item, ordinance 2021-1654, an ordinance authorizing the grant of easement number E38.0 to Ameren for power transmission lines. Trustee DeVore asks for a motion to approve this.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-1654. Second.
All right. Trustee DeVore, if you want to set this up, and council, he's actually got the next two items, but if you want to start, Trustee DeVore, go right ahead.
Yeah, so this is what we talked about in our last meeting, and I believe the meeting before, about granting Ameren these easements so they could clear trees and things like that. And they're offering to pay us for them too.
That's correct. So the two, I felt like we should have two separate ordinances because they are two distinct easements. So theoretically, board members might approve one and not the other. That's why they've been separated, but it's really the same program. The only thing that I will say, I mean, we did negotiate the price with them. We are getting $42,000 for the Glen corridor, which is adjacent to an existing easement along the old railroad driveway, which is the Rock Island Trail. The second easement, we're getting $8,000 for, so the total is $50,000. And that is east and south of Trester's, again along the trail, much smaller in scope. After last meeting, I went back and reread the easement, engaged in a lot more communication with the Ameren engineers and representatives. But I'm still, if you recall, we had discussed trying to convince Ameren to agree not to block use of the trail. And they said that they couldn't do that because, you know, it's possible that it would be unsafe to use the trail while they're trimming trees. They wouldn't want people to be at risk. But I'm still looking for protective language, and I think I have them agreeing to it. It says that they won't permanently do anything that would permanently interfere with the trail, because the way the language is currently, in theory, they could move one of the poles or something anywhere within the easement, and we don't want that to happen. That's not the intent. The intent is clearly just to enable them to clear brush and maintain the lines and things like that. So I would recommend that somebody make an amendment, because the way the easements are presented, they've got this broad language, and we're going to get additional language that limits Ameren's ability to interfere with the trail. So I would like the approval to be subject to the addition of limiting language that will prevent any permanent interference or permanent relocation of the existing Rock Island Trail.
So you just want a motion to, okay, so just to not permanently affect the Rock Island Trail?
Yeah, we have a motion to amend the motion to approve the ordinance.
Okay.
That adds the condition that Ameren agrees to additional language that would prevent any permanent interference with the trail.
Okay. I'll make a motion to do that. Do I have to repeat it?
Thank you.
Hold on, I'm trying to,
Could you repeat that, council, just?
hold on a second, let me, because I've almost got it.
Okay.
And then I'll check. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Walton. Trustee DeVore made a motion to amend the motion to approve this easement, adding the condition that Ameren adds additional language limiting Ameren's ability to permanently interfere with the trail. Is that how you want the amendment?
I would say permanently interfere or permanently relocate
Or permanently relocate?
the trail.
Is that okay with the maker of the amendment?
Yes.
And do we have a second to the amendment?
Second.
Okay. Trustee Gatt seconded the amendment.
Okay, on the amendment, any discussion? And whenever you're ready, Madam Clerk, call the question on the amendment.
Okay. This is on the amendment. Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Trustee Gatt?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Marfel?
Aye.
Trustee Wigginton?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, back to the main motion as amended. Any further discussion on the main motion as amended? Anything else, council?
No.
Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Trustee Gatt?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Marfel?
Aye.
Trustee Wigginton?
Nay.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
All right, motion passes as amended with one opposed. We'd be at action item ordinance 2021-1655, An ordinance authorizing the grant of easement number E64.03 to Ameren for power transmission lines. Trustee DeVore would ask for a motion to approve this.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-1655,
And a second?
Subject to the same condition as the last.
subject to the same conditions as the last ordinance.
All right, thanks for straightening that out.
Last,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Attorney Walton, does she need to make an amendment for that, or is that just part of the motion?
I think she can move to approve the ordinance with that
Okay.
as a condition.
In a second?
Second?
All right. Trustee DeVore, anything to start out with?
No.
Council?
This
We don't-
is the second of the two easements. This would be the 8,000 one for the, right at the curve of the trail southeast of Trester.
Okay.
Discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
We were
Wait.
still discussing it.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, never mind, go ahead.
No, I want to know.
Well, so Ameren, even if we don't grant these easements, Ameren, you had said last meeting that they can still come in and do whatever they want.
They they have easements on the north side. It kind of runs at an angle, so I would say north side, but, it's really northeast. They currently have an easement on the northeast side of that railroad right-of-way. So they only can access their poles and brush and trees and so forth on the north side. They're trying to true it all up. I think what happened is when they originally did the easement, was before they put the power lines in, and then when they no longer put the power lines in, usually they're pretty good about putting it in the middle. Sometimes they aren't. And this one got put in, for whatever reason, on the south extremity of the easement. So, they have the easement for the power lines, they have an easement to maintain and cut back brush on the northeast side. I think what's probably happened over time is they've treated it as though they had an easement on the southwest side, and nobody knew the difference because it's just not typical that a village would pull all the easements and check and have a surveyor map them out to find out. So I think this was just something that I believe that when they say the way it was presented is every so often they go through and pull up all of their easements and make sure they're all accurate, they're all current, and they all coincide with where the power lines actually are located. And when they discover discrepancies like this, they go back and they ask to expand the easement. And anytime they do that, they offer to pay compensation because they're enlarging their easement. And I think that's what's at play here, is it's really just an updating, modernizing, making sure their easements are accurate.
Look at all that. Is there any con to it? Is there any?
No, if they had done nothing, and we weren't alerted to it, and they were trimming on the south side of the trail, and they put up barricades and blocked the trail for 2 or 3 days while they engaged in the tree trimming, we theoretically could have stopped them from doing that and said, you don't have an easement on the south side of the trail. We wouldn't have because we didn't know. So now they will have the right to do that. We wouldn't be able to stop them. That's about the only downside that I can see, is that it's possible that they will limit access to the trail for safety purposes when they come along. And how often do they do that? You guys know. It's once a year.
Once a
at
year,
most.
maybe twice or once at most.
So if I may jump in, when you say stop, we literally could not go down there and forcibly stop them. Do you go to court to get that stop order, or how does that?
No, they have a right to trim the trees. And if they're trimming the trees, they are going to create a safety zone
Right.
for obvious reasons within their easement area. So we've just, by granting these easements, we're expanding that area that they can say, hey, look, we're trimming the trees, stay away from this area for your own safety.
I forget the word you used last time when we discussed this. You had said something about if they didn't have the easement because they were a utility.
They can take it.
That's what I'm trying to get
Yeah,
to.
they have eminent domain powers, just like a municipality or a state.
Okay, that's what I remember you saying. Okay.
And it's possible they would exercise that. They've got to go through the Commerce Commission. It's a long, drawn-out process. They may just say, we're just going to keep moving what we've always done. And if you try to stop us, then, I don't know. Honestly, that's conjecture. I don't know what they would do if we did grant it. But again, I don't think that potential for limited closure of the trail when they're trimming the trees is a reason not to grant them that right. I mean, in theory, they leave the trees interfere with the power lines, power goes out, and, you know.
And basically, we're talking safety. We got human lives we're worried about, so they want to pay us, and or they're going to be guaranteeing their safety because that's hazardous work.
Right.
So I think we'd be remiss in not allowing this to happen.
Yeah, as a general matter, I think it's good public policy for municipalities to cooperate with all utility providers when they're seeking to maintain their service to the community. Now, this is a major power corridor, so these are transmission lines that service, you know, a broad area beyond Peoria Heights. But again, they are our incumbent service provider for electricity, and, you know, it's reasonable to cooperate with them when their request is for a stated purpose that is clearly demonstrated.
So, Mark, the one thing that I noticed in this is it says, "The grantee shall be responsible for any actual damages occurring to the easement area or other premises of the grantor as a result of the grantee's exercise of the rights herein conveyed, except for trimming, cutting, clearance, and removal of trees, brush, and other obstructions, and shall, in the grantee's sole discretion, either repair or restore or reimburse the owner thereof of such losses." So it's up to the grantee to decide?
And the way that works is, so if a tree branch falls and lands on somebody's fence, they can say, we're going to replace the fence. Or they can say, you know what, go get 3 bids and give them to us, and we'll let you replace the fence and we'll pay for it.
So what if their
That's
truck,
just an example.
their trucks run on the trail and mess the trail up?
Same thing. Either they repaint it and fix it, or they tell us, get some bids and give us numbers, and we'll let you.
But it's their discretion if they've messed it up or not?
It's their discretion, not that it get repaired or replaced. It's their discretion whether Ameren does the work or reimburses the village to have the village do the work.
Okay.
That's my understanding of it.
Okay. And this, it's in some of this easement, it's expanding from 25 feet to 50 feet to reflect the reality of where these things are. But at no time did Ameren say, oh, we're not utilizing this other 25 feet here, we're going to abandon this easement.
No.
They instead, we're just going to expand this easement.
Exactly, and if you look at the maps that are attached, you'll notice that the transmission line is at the very south extreme, the southwest extreme of the existing easement.
25 feet.
So in other words, they built it at the far edge of their actual easement, so now they're just trying to double the width in effect, so that the power line goes down the middle of the easement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very confident, as I sit here without having seen it happen, that they have trimmed the trees on both sides of those power lines historically with the assumption that their easement was, as usually is the case, on both sides of the power lines without knowledge of this. And then when they did the research to modernize and update the easements, they discovered this mistake, and now they're trying to correct it.
Per this easement, though, it sounds like that they can also, in addition to the 50 feet we're giving them, give them enough space to get their, work around the easement on the edges. So potentially, this is, 10 feet on one side, 10 feet on another, so that they can get their equipment around. It turns into a 70-foot easement because they have to have that space.
They have to be able to access all parts of that easement, yes.
Okay. And Trustee Kazam, you said that you went out to this location and you were pretty confident that there's no economic opportunities that we would be losing because we're granting this large easement to this utility. Is that correct?
Yeah, so initially when this issue came up, I thought, we better take a close look at this because there have been times, particularly in the recent history, where we could utilize land, not necessarily for sale or serious development, but activity on that land. And so I went out to look at both of these areas. Obviously, they're two very different areas. The area around the dog park and the trail in that area, I don't see any potential for development in that area or any reason why we would need it per se. I don't have a crystal ball, but with the explanation of council also saying that they have been doing this and could do it anyway, that put my mind at ease. And then the other location, the terrain is so, the topography of it, you can't even walk it. It's just it's weeds and it's ravine and there are enormous power poles there. So it's very kind of rough terrain in that area.
And Mark, if they needed to expand, you said this is a high utility, this is high-powered lines here. If they needed to have additional, band or voltage going through these lines with this new expanded easement, they could add more heavy-duty lines in that area?
In theory, yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Good discussion. It's healthy to question things, Council.
I keep bringing this up. I want us all to know what we're getting into.
And good job on all this, Mark. And thanks to Trustee Kazan for physically going out and looking at this. Everything working as it should. We're questioning things. We're investigating things. So thanks, everybody, for this. Anyone else on this item? Madam Clerk?
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Trustee Gatt?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Marfel?
Aye.
Trustee Wigginton?
Nay.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
All right, that passes with one abstention. Trustee DeVore, anything else under Administration or Finance?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Well, we're way ahead tonight. We got through a lot. Everyone was prepared, which is good. Anyone else want to chime in on any of your committees? Would be a miscellaneous business. Anyone want to update the board on anything on your committee? Go right ahead.
I don't have an update, but I do have a few questions. Saturday nights, the music that comes out of downtown, is our noise ordinance in effect with the business district?
I believe it should be. Deputy Chief, can you answer that question, please, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium so everyone at home can hear your answer?
And just a little background, I've gotten a citizen that reached out to me regarding not being able to hear his television over the music that comes out of the downtown business district on Saturday nights. So he's a little concerned because he's several blocks away and he can't even listen to his television. So I wasn't sure if our noise ordinance applied to the business district, if there's any way we can work with the business district to maybe design it. So I know you can have your equipment pointing a certain way so that the music reflects off the buildings and not out into the...
Yeah, I'll let Deputy Chief Ahart answer that. Before I do, I bet I've got maybe 2-3 calls over the last year and a half or so about noise. One was about a bar on Samuel, another was about a bar in between Marietta and Kelly. One of the calls, actually, I was surprised, a person I know that lives in the city of Peoria, down near Starbucks, not in Peoria Heights, but for some reason, the noise must have carried that down into that neighborhood. Another neighbor occasionally has some complaints about a bar on Samuel, and Chief and I have had PD go over there and look into that. But Chris, go ahead if you shed some light on this.
I'm dealing with the same issue on a weekly basis with a bar on Samuel. How we've always regulated that, they do fall within our noise ordinance, but we've always granted them basically until 11 o'clock time limit. Now, within reason, the bar on Samuel sometimes gets more heavy metal or louder rock, so we try to police that 10:30, but the noise ordinance, how that falls into is the businesses, we try to let them stay open until 11 o'clock, but with the understanding at 11 o'clock it shuts down. And the manager of the bar on Samuel is really good about working with us. I'm sure the bar on Marietta and Prospect right there would do the same thing. So, but yeah, to answer your question simply is it does fall under our noise ordinance, but we've always allowed them to go to 11 o'clock. It's the same as when we used to have the Tower Park Fest up here. It was always shut down by 11 for that reason. So I don't know if that helps or not. If there's any other questions I can answer.
It does.
Yeah, the guys will do a good job. They will go police. If they get a call, if he wants to call the dispatch line, they'll go there and they'll talk to him and try to get it to tone it down a little bit.
Right.
The problem is, like we ran into last week, the one time they went by, we had a complaint. They went by the bar in Samuel, and at that time they must have been switching or taking a break because it was quiet. And they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
we don't hear anything." So.
Yeah, I got an email about it about 10 o'clock Saturday, and I actually drove out because, some people can exaggerate on how loud it is. But by the time I got there, they had turned the music off.
Yeah.
So I couldn't actually hear if it was like truly super loud that you couldn't hear your TV or what. But I was just curious if you're sitting in your house and you can't hear your TV, that's a problem.
I agree. But we're trying to work with all parties.
Right.
Obviously we want the citizens in the neighborhood to be quiet. We also want to allow our businesses to, make some money and have some patrons in there after the year they had. So.
Right, agreed.
I think sometimes it depends on which way the wind is blowing. I mean, I live 6 blocks away from Heritage Square, probably 7 blocks. And sometimes I can sit on my back porch and it's like I'm right there. But then other times I hear nothing at all. So I think it does just depend on how it's traveling for some reason.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I know Saturday night we came home around 10 and I actually told my kids, I'm like, go out, there's a band playing, but it was particularly loud, or for some reason, several blocks away, I could hear it just sitting in my backyard that night.
Yeah.
But then it ended promptly at 11. I mean, it was over at 11, so I feel like that's a good compromise,
Right.
In these longest days of summer, these businesses not having, been able to reap the benefit of, revenue, so.
Right. See, and you're much further than the person that complained, so if you could hear it, it was probably pretty bad at their residence.
Well,
Thank you.
again, if you get these complaints, call the police. I'll go over right away and investigate. So, and you do have a device that measures the decibels, correct?
It's more of just, word of mouth, word of ear. The guys listen. If they feel it's too loud, they'll have them turn it down. We don't have a meter to measure that, no, sir. But I do, and like I said, we have a good relationship. They also have a good relationship with the owners of the businesses, so they usually work with us pretty well. The one in Samuel, we talk on a weekly basis. She's great about it. She'll tell them, hey, let's crank it down. Or if it's like I said, more of a rock band, she'll shut them down at about 10:30. If it's just some acoustic or one a quieter band, she'll let them go to 11 o'clock. But anytime we get a complaint, they send a guy. We send some officers our way.
Anything else, Trustee Weisberg?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just go right
I
ahead.
have something I'd like to bring before the board for discussion at a later date. But I think in order to get ahead of the game on this rental property, specifically addressing VRBOs and Airbnbs, we need to have a conversation about restrictions, and I guess that falls into your category or council's category as well. And I got on the VRBO website to see if this is a problem in other communities, and it obviously is, because VRBO, to counter that, has their own recommendations for rental property owners to engage with a harmonious, relationship between the community and their rentals. So I think, as our community develops, which is so exciting, and we want rentals, and it's really exciting, I think, in a lot of ways to see that these Airbnbs and VRBOs are so popular. It really, in my mind, speaks to the need for a hotel in our area. We have to also look at how this affects parking issues, garbage disposal, noise ordinances, also, I think, home prices and property values. So I don't know if this is something we want to do a little bit more obviously we need to do more investigating on, but I think that there are some cases, I just want to say one last thing, very few, but there are a few cases where homeowners, rental owners are advertising their VRBOs to allow an exorbitant amount of people to sleep in there that would be completely unreasonable. Like a 2-bedroom house sleeps 10, for example, or something like that. And so I think that's the exception, but I just think we need to think about that.
A good point, and I'm happy to put this or anything any trustee has in the future on the agenda for discussion. So whenever you, Trustee Kazam, think that you want the board to discuss that, when you get more information, just let me know. We'll get it on the agenda.
Okay.
Trustee Kazam, just on that point, we did bring that up, and I know we were looking at what restrictions we could apply in regard to the fire code, especially sleeping so many people in like an 800 square foot house, and I don't think we had many tools at our disposal to address that.
Very difficult to regulate, especially in the residential context. In the commercial context, there's fire limits that you can speak probably on that better than I can, but once you get outside of commercial and into the residential, occupancy limits are almost impossible. So it's a challenge.
Okay.
There's no law avoiding residential business.
No,
That's really surprising.
I think Chief, though, did try to, and, I'm sorry, not you, Van, Sutton has talked about putting them under a registration as well as for an inspection.
We did approve that last
So
time.
that's what we had done last time, and so I think that hopefully will regulate this to the most that we can do. I mean, I don't discourage further looking into it, but, I mean, I don't know.
Is there a way to keep it in certain, well, I don't know. I mean, I think I want to do more thinking about it. Maybe this is something we have a conversation about in our strategic planning meeting. And really,
Anything that we did with temporary rentals would have to apply equally to a long-term rental. So if you're going to say there's occupancy limits on a 2-bedroom house, then that owner could rent that house to a family for a year on a standard lease if there were more than that number of occupants. So it got to apply somewhat across the board. It's rental property. So, and now all we did was, with the recent amendment, is make clear that if you lease your house for the weekend on VRBO, you're a landlord and you're going to register like any other landlord that leases their house for a year.
one thing we can do is up the fee, though.
Certainly.
That's something we can do. I mean, I know that doesn't necessarily take care of, but it does, I think, incentivize people to be responsible.
So if we up the fee, it would be for all landlords.
But that would have to apply across.
Okay, and in the letter of the law, is it still residential if you're renting something? Because in my mind, that's commercial.
Yeah, it
Commercial.
becomes a business, but much like if you own a single-family home and lease it, that's still a residential use from a zoning and a regulatory perspective.
Okay.
So, yeah, I appreciate that. The real challenge, though, is we have to effectively treat these owners that lease it on a temporary basis like any other landlord. It really doesn't matter if you lease your house for a weekend or for a year. Your landlord, you got to apply the same rules to all of them.
It even says on this, I mean, this is the VRBO website, that they recommend their owner renters, to explain to their guests, and some of the things that they issue, that they deal with are no burning candles, no guests of guests, no loud parties, no smoking inside, and maximum occupancy. So this is obviously an issue that they've been dealing with in communities throughout the country.
Right. It's just a question of what we can force.
Okay.
Plus, it's very, very difficult to enforce because you don't know when those are rented.
Right.
VRBO does, but we don't. So we just have to take it as complaints come.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we have to be more reactive than proactive. But this was a good first step. We know who these renters are, who the owners are that are renting their homes. So we should by right, we should capture more landlords registering for those people that aren't, that use the house, but say, hey, I'm gone in the winter, so I'll throw it up on VRBO for temporary rentals. In theory, we should get several additional registrations. If we don't, then we know there's a problem.
I mean, couldn't we start just having a conversation with the homeowner too? Like, if it is listed at 10, like, maybe, I don't know, like, can we just try to work with them first? Because there's been several times, like, I've rented, and it's like, we have 6 people, but it'll say maximum rental 5, Granted, people could lie, okay, like, you could lie, but even when I've tried to be honest, like, we have 6, is that okay? I've had them deny, like, no, we won't rent to you. Because you have.
As the renter.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
as the person
as the
renting.
property owner, like, I've put in, like, I see on your, like, I want to rent, I see that it says for 5, I'll fill everything out, it'll accept my payment, but I will have put in there that I have 6 people coming, and they'll deny
Well, that's
my rental.
responsible.
Sure, and I understand that we can't control that, but I think trying to have a good relationship with them
Right.
would be a good place to start,
I
maybe.
think it's as hard as getting on VRBO or Airbnb's website, and putting in Peoria Heights to learn who's actually offering their place for rent. So it's not
Sure.
like they're hiding it, or they would.
Yeah, it would, and
So
they
it would be very successful. So we certainly could engage in dialogue with those, property owners by conducting the search and sending a letter out saying, hey, just so you know, you saw that your house was listed, or your apartment, or your duplex, or whatever. So the dialogue might start that way. Because again, the fact that people are advertising their place means that we can find them. And I would suggest that, just let them know that there's a new ordinance, let them know they have to register, let them know that it's our preference that they, have a reasonable number of people occupying at any time. All of those things, we could work on crafting communication. I think that's a good idea.
So regarding complaints, like for noise and parking, with our current ordinance, if a landlord gets, I think it's 3 complaints for a certain tenant, then that gives us some ability to say, out of there. But what if it's a new tenant every couple days? Is it still 3 complaints per that individual tenant?
Well, the landlord's going to start at some point being fined enough that the fines exceed.
Even if they're different
VRBO.
Even if they're different tenants?
It doesn't matter who the tenant is. If they're
Okay.
violating the rules, it doesn't matter if it's Joe or Susie staying there.
Okay.
So I think vigilant enforcement will make it financially, incentivize those property owners
Right.
to comply.
Right, so we do.
Or better put, to have their guests comply.
Right. So, I mean, there's an avenue.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're constantly partying, and they get a $500 fine after the 4th call or whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
It's just like any other enforcement issue. When people that are subject to the regulation know that the village is aware of their business, watching what they're doing, and is going to be vigilant with enforcement, they're probably going to pass that on to their patrons. But when they think that nobody knows I'm doing this, then they're more likely to say, yeah, you know what, 6, that's fine, 8, yeah, that'll work too. So, again, I think communication is, you're always going to have non-compliance. You can't eliminate it, but you can minimize it by fostering communication, letting people know that we are looking at this and we are trying to keep the community, family friendly.
So you're saying the occupancy rate would also apply to long-term renters? Now, some people can't just come in with just 5 people. I mean, when I was first down there, I had 7 living in that 3-bedroom.
That's my point, yeah.
We don't want to limit it too much, because some people, they're living there. They're not just there for the weekend or having a party and stuff. Now, granted, if, it was a duplex and if the neighbor got out of hand, I would call my landlord and he'd get on them about it. He had no problem. Because because it reflects on him.
Yep.
So, but you just gotta be kind of careful how much you limit. This is going to affect, long-term renters. You gotta kind of take them into consideration. But some of the people this is what they can afford, and
Yeah, well, this is going to be a great opportunity for us to talk about this in strategic planning along with all of the neighborhoods. So thank you. I just wanted to bring it up one last time.
Any other miscellaneous business?
One thing, Mr. Mayor, we've got this Friday is the River Valley Big Band here in Tower Park. I know Deputy Chief Earhart will be monitoring for any noise complaints, but I think it should be a good time in Tower Park.
I agree. Anything else? I just would like to thank you all. The strategic plan was mentioned earlier, and the session is this Saturday. Thanks to everyone who took a lot of time. I don't know about the rest of you. It took me quite a bit of time to fill out the SWOT analysis, which I thought was a pretty deep dive into the issues here facing the village, and then the interview. And I think everyone completed both or did what you could. So that really helps the facilitator gather the information that they need to help us get to this session on Saturday when we actually do the goal setting. So I know I'm looking forward to that. I hope the rest of you are as well. So thanks again for that. If there's no other miscellaneous business, Trustee Gett?
make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I do. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're adjourned.